Russian President Vladimir Putin might be notorious for starting the current war against the Ukraine, but did you know that the master of chaos himself has one of the most impenetrable security teams in the world? For many years now, decades even, Putin has channeled the majority of Russian funds into the state's security, creating something of a stronghold. Many would say his obsession with creating an all-encompassing security state began with the 2004 Beslan school massacre, but it is possible that the deeply paranoid president has always favored complete isolation and a sense of security over diplomacy. Today, we will look at Vladimir Putin's security detail, why it is one of the most formidable security systems in the world, and what goes into protecting the leader of the largest country in the world. Vladimir Putin was born in Leningrad, Russia on October 7, 1952, and is the current Russian president. Before becoming president, Putin studied law at Leningrad State University and served as a KGB foreign intelligence officer for 15 years. After retiring from the KGB in 1990, Putin rapidly rose through the ranks with a reputation for getting things done and became the first deputy mayor in 1994. By 1999, President Boris Yeltsin appointed Putin as acting president of Russia, and thus his reign began. Not much is known about the notoriously private president, and most people simply hazard a guess about his personal life. Putin's desire to keep his personal life private is nearly as strong as his desire to keep himself safe. Since 1999, Vladimir Putin has ruled Russia with what many would call a reckless abandon, making rules and strict policies that sometimes do not entirely favor the masses. Vladimir Putin's obsession with his security has significantly eroded the standard of living in Russia. For example, while surgeons and doctors earn $200 to $300 monthly, a member of the police force or an FSB agent could take home anything from $700 to $1,100 at the end of the month. Basically, any position worth having in Russia is one that has to deal with the armed forces or a position obtained through bribery or nepotism. When Fox News host Sean Hannity suggested on his show that Vladimir Putin should simply be assassinated to stop the war, he severely underestimated the measures the man has put to place to make sure his enemies are never successful. While the host's comments were met with severe backlash on how dangerous the statement was, it leaves one to wonder why no one has actually done the needful for the good of the world. Wherever the powerful president goes, an inspection team goes ahead months before to survey the area for how the crowd will receive him and even the weather and possibilities of natural disasters. Everything in the area is checked for possible danger and is immediately fixed, including lights and even doorknobs, so that there would be no need for a handyman to access Putin's quarters once he arrives. His team also uses jamming devices to eliminate threats of bombs, tracking devices, and other possible security breaches in the area. The IT engineers keep track of smartphones and other devices within close proximity to the president so that they can be alerted to any suspicious activity. This breach of privacy might seem strange to citizens of other nations, but did you know that Russian laws allow the president's security to install tapping software, seize vehicles, gain access to any building, and perform all kinds of searches as long as it pertains to the security of the president? Once all examinations and protocols have been put in place, the president may then arrive, with his security team, of course. So how does Vladimir Putin satisfy his largely paranoid mind? The FPS, Federal Protective Service, is in charge of protecting the president, and the organization has around 50,000 workers employed for this purpose. Why such a large number? The Federal Protective Service is also in charge of the safety of other important people, including the Prime Minister, Ministers of Foreign Affairs and Defense, Speakers of the State Duma and the Soviet of Federation, Director of the Federal Security Service, Chairman of the Security Council, and other statesmen who may be granted personal security on the president's order. Vladimir Putin's security team is so complex, there are layers which no one even knows about. Putin is surrounded by his security team 24/7, and the men are licensed to kill anyone they feel is a threat to Putin's safety. When Putin steps out, he does so surrounded by 4 rings of professionally trained security. His security does not end at just the guards surrounding him. More of his personal bodyguards are planted amid the crowd, and snipers keep a bird's eye on the surroundings. The guards in the first level of security look like regular bodyguards, and they are well trained to sense and divert any kind of attack. They often move with Kevlar umbrellas or bulletproof briefcases to protect the president from bullets. These guys walk around with bulletproof vests to protect themselves and 9mm Gurja pistols that can discharge 40 rounds per minute. Putin's second-tier security guards are dressed in soft clothes and mix in with the crowd, standing at some distance from the president. These undercover guards are ready to jump into action at the slightest sign of danger towards Vladimir Putin. The third circle stands at the edge of the crowd, often forming a sort of barricade between the people and the president, while the fourth circle of guards are armed with sniper rifles and perched at the top of tall buildings to sight trouble from a mile away. These layers of security aren't enough to assuage the president's mind. Putin still travels in an armored car with military attachments. Wonder how fast Putin's guards will react to a perceived threat to the Russian president? There is video footage from 2018 showing how a bodyguard reacted to a mixed martial artist putting his arm around Putin for a picture in Moscow. Of course, a stern glare from the bodyguard had MMA fighter Conor McGregor immediately withdraw his hand and keep them to himself. Attacks against the president do not always have to be physical. Poisoning is always a threat to anyone in power, and Putin has steps in place to make sure that will never be his fate. The Russian president has a man to taste every meal that goes into his mouth to make sure he is not being poisoned. I mean, if a meal is poisoned, better them than him, right? Among Putin's many requirements for his security guards include a possession of operational psychology. This means that his security guards must be able to anticipate threats to the president and prevent these threats from being successful, all while being inconspicuous. Putin likes to keep his security guys young and fresh, and he reportedly changes them out once they hit 35. Fair enough, he does set them up with some of the best posts, with some of them becoming anything from federal ministers to regional governors and even special service commanders. Guards must also weigh between 75 to 90 kilograms and be 175 to 190 centimeters in height. Being a member of Vladimir Putin's personal guards is no piece of cake. One must pass foreign languages proficiency tests as well as be well-versed in political affairs. These men have more than high mental capacities. They are physically trained to have high stamina, sustain body heat, and not sweat in hot temperatures. It is only to be expected that a man who rules so ruthlessly and with as much power as Vladimir Putin will be faced with multiple assassination attempts. In 2012, Russian special services uncovered a plot to assassinate Putin after the presidential election. The men arrested disclosed they had been sent by the leader of a separatist Islamic movement, and they were on one mission: to sabotage the economy of Moscow and attempt an assassination on Putin. Former Cuban leader Fidel Castro infamously survived 638 assassination attempts, and his enemies got more creative with each attempt. They tried everything from poisoned cigars, infected scuba diving suits, and a poisoned ballpoint pen. If the attempts against Castro were unsuccessful, it is very unlikely attempts against Putin would be successful. Also, assassination attempts made against the president of Russia would very well lead to Russians demanding retaliation, and the entire thing could escalate into a global war. That's all we have for today, folks. More information than you probably ever had on Vladimir Putin's security. Just in case you want to make a move, you might think twice about it now, right? Let us know what you think about the Russian president and his security detail in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.